Welcome to Chat Tea House, and while drinking a cup of tea, we will share with you our real travel stories about China.
And today's tea is a black tea from Yunnan. Not bought in China, but in a local shop in Zurich.
And in today's episode, we're gonna talk about our favorite topic, and which is also the reason why we are sitting here. The initial reasons that we want to start this episode.
Yeah, because once you go to China once, twice, or 4 times, 6 times, you realize that what you initially thought doesn't have that much to do with reality. And many people, the questions that people keep on asking are always the same. And it's always something that couldn't be further from the truth, right? So it's in this episode we will try to break down, I think, the biggest issues that people think about when they are planning their trip, or when they think that there's no reason for them to go to China, right?
Yeah, like in German you say Mythos und Wahrheit, myth and reality about China. So I mean, by speaking of myth, I feel like, I mean, it doesn't mean that we're saying only good side about China, but we want to be more subjective. We want to share what I got most frequently asked questions from people who are planning to travel to China, and also from Magda, her website.
Exactly. So the first topic for today is different perspectives about like Chinese cities, because I think many people think that, first of all Chinese cities look the same, that this may be all skyscrapers, also all in those tall buildings, residential buildings. And I guess like part of it is true. When you arrive in the city, I'm sometimes feel like, oh, this city looks pretty like grim. I'm not sure if we will enjoy it. And then the moment you start walking the streets, you realize, okay, that the buildings are tall, but there's so much going on the ground, and every city is very different, right?
Yes, and I totally agree with you. And this morning we just discussed about like going to a Chinese living block, like the apartments, the giant apartments complex. Even I myself, as a Chinese local, when I go back to China, I tend to get lost in a giant community complex because every building looks exactly the same. And this part is really, I feel like it's true. But if you go in depth, if you go to really in German it's called Falten, the wrinkles of the city, and like when you go to the side alleys, or when you're just like like walking through these small streets, you realize each city has its own personality.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
I mean,
and also like the architecture itself is changing. I feel like all of those, I don't know how the new residential blocks are being built. Is it still exactly the same? But for example, when you see the architecture of the city, like commercial buildings and the newer versus something that was built 10 years ago, I think there's a lot of focus now to build like invite world-class architects to design buildings that themselves become
like
tourist
landmarks.
Yes, so it's very deliberate in China. I feel like in Europe we have some landmarks like the Eiffel Tower in Paris, but I feel like in China it is really a result of studying like what works in others.
Well researched.
Yes, well researched, and then you go to every city, and all of those like first tier cities definitely, but also second tier cities, they start to develop one or two things that is just like so unique. Or the new libraries are being built as well, like with focus on really the beauty and the design.
I think with the time, many Chinese cities realize like they need to find their own personality and their own. I mean, what is Shanghai, for example? What is Beijing? And they're trying to put that history or the people there to build these architectures. But sometimes it might be true because like when I fly to Shanghai and on the plane I saw these like thousands of buildings. They look exactly the same, but as long as you're there, you walk a little bit sideways, you will find people are different, and the food is different, the smell is different, the sound is different. It's actually different in every aspects of senses.
Exactly. And also like as you said, like for example in Chengdu, everyone who knows a little bit about China, they know Chengdu is all about pandas, and you actually see everything is about pandas. Right?
True.
There'll be sellers of like little panda hairbands everywhere.
They're good at branding.
Everywhere, but you will see it every day. And for example in Harbin, because it's all about ice and snow, and they really put a lot of effort to making, like they call it, I think even like ice and snow economy or something. So it's really, they know, okay, we otherwise it's very cold city, maybe there would be no reason to come. But now it's like they have this giant snowman that they build every year, many of them actually. And it becomes like this thing that people actually go because it's so interesting, unique, and they like the whole city becomes themed into ice and snow. And I think you see it a bit all across China, this effort, as you say, to differentiate. So it's not like you went to one city, you've seen them all. You really go to different cities, you see different vibes, and it is very different. And one more point to this, I think what surprised me as well on my first trip was that I told you before, like we watched, my husband, before he first time went to China, he watched a documentary from BBC Wild China, and it's about like the wildlife, but the nature, but also villages, like old villages are there. And this is the China that is slowly disappearing, or very fast disappearing actually. And
that's true.
I think when we went, he, even though he went in 2008, he was still expecting like to see kind of this backpacker's paradise when you just show up, you stay in a hostel, you still can stay in a hostel, but the China has evolved so much that it's no longer, you don't take a bus for 20 hours. If there's something worth seeing, there's likely a train or so traveling, it's not anymore. Of course, backpackers can go, it's still cheap, but actually if you look for more comfortable holiday, it's also an excellent destination where you will have world-class restaurants, you will have very good hotels,
so it has
entertainment,
everything.
it has a lot, exactly everything.
I mean, also like what I really like is like how people make each city different or each village different. Like I used to stay in Guangzhou for about 4 years, and there's actually like a huge community of people from Africa coming to Guangzhou and doing business, doing tradings there, and there's a huge community, and you feel like
they're also shaping
Africa.
the identity of
Exactly. That's like okay, when you're there, actually Guangzhou is a trading city. I mean, it has a long history of trading with overseas countries, and when you're there, you're like, okay, this is actually different from Shanghai, where you don't see this kind of communities.
But even like cities that are close together, right? Like Guangzhou, Shenzhen.
That's
they are
different.
So close, like it's 20 minutes on a high-speed rail, and they are very, very different. Like they're both very modern, but Shenzhen is a technological hub known for its electronics industry. At the same time, Guangzhou is still has a bit of colonial past, so you see also a bit older buildings, but it's also very modern, also a lot of business as well. So it's even for the close cities so close to each other, you see differences.
And also like one of my favorite German word, it's called, I think it's also in English called Zeitgeist. It's like about really the buildings,
spirit of the time.
Exactly. And these buildings, even though they are the same, they're a reflector of the spirit of the time being, the current. It's one screenshot of China right now. And this is very also interesting to observe as well, how history evolves, why China likes to build skyscrapers. There's a long history about it. I mean, we could start a new episode about this, but I think slowly we listed some topics we really want to talk. And one really interesting thing, I think it's also about food. We got that. I got that a lot. Like Chinese food are weird, or Chinese people eat
or it's all
dogs.
the same, right? Like
It's all
people
the
either
same.
think one thing is that it's maybe weird, or like a lot of different parts of animals, which is partly true, but also that it's just like in my head, like I have to say, like before going to China, there are not that many Chinese restaurants in Europe. That I mean, specifically, I would say like in Switzerland, since it's doesn't have it's not that easy to come, right? So it doesn't have like a big vibrant Chinese community. There are Chinese people, but most of them I would imagine work in Google or bigger companies. So there's no like there's very few restaurants, and I think they cater to like the more like to please the people without
Exactly.
being
In
able to
Europe,
show them a bit like what their food is really like. Because in London, for example, there's much more variety.
yeah.
So it's
yeah.
very hard in Switzerland. In Europe, it's hard to discover Chinese cuisine.
Yes.
That's
I mean, unless in big international cities
Exactly,
like
like-
Milan, Paris,
exactly.
Frankfurt, or
and London specifically,
Yeah, that's true.
But Chinese food, so many people imagine it's just like rice with a side of, I don't know, sweet and sour chicken, or generally like some meat in a thick sauce or something. I think even I didn't know that it's like there are so many noodle dishes, you know.
That's
I
true.
I knew
See,
that
there are over
noodles.
100 kinds of noodles in Shanxi province.
Wow, it's insane. But I don't know why, but in Chinese restaurants like here, I never see almost like noodle dishes. Like it's mostly focused on this like rice plus something. There,
Yeah, but if you imagine like the global Chinese immigrants, I think they started really very recent. I mean, I think till like, for example, in Switzerland before I think it's 2004 or 2014, and there's like, I mean, people cannot travel to Switzerland as a tourist. You have to come here as only for business.
Yeah.
And there are not so many Chinese.
Exactly, and the ones that there are, they come with very strong reasons, like you know, like tech companies, and like for very high profile jobs, rather than just like I come here and see what will happen, right? Like I know my Chinese teacher, she lives in Australia, she's Chinese, and she said in Australia there's such a big Chinese population that she eats sometimes better food in Australia than she finds in China, because it's just like such a variety of foods, and
they have big Chinese community there.
Exactly.
I mean, it's an immigrant country, but when we talk about Europe, especially Central Europe, I mean, besides Italy, I think the Chinese community is still, I mean, the minority, I would say.
In Poland, I went maybe twice to Chinese restaurants ever, and it was, you have this big list of dishes, right? But they all like just like it's like 10 kinds of beef, like you know, beef with like different sauces and stuff. So yeah, like it really misses like the spirit of China, and the China is so huge as well, and it's reflected not only in the diverse cities but also the food, right? Because like Hainan, obviously at the seaside, so they have abundance of fish. So what do they cook? They have a lot of seafood. At the same time, in Harbin, so close to Russia, you have Russian influence, more Western food as well. But then you have Sichuan with the, I think it's a UNESCO city for food. Like,
Could be. We're quite proud of our food, by the way. What I want to say is like I think food, many Chinese food is acquired taste. I think for Europeans, most of the time it's just like simply you are not used to that.
Yeah.
Because it's completely new, and people are cautious when it comes to food, especially. I mean, it's, for example, when I first come to Switzerland, the cheese. It takes me more than 1 year to get used to that. But now I like cheese.
Yeah.
You need time. You need the exposure to the food to get to know it, or you need the people who encourage you, or keeping encouraging you to try the food.
Yeah.
So I think in China also, if you're used to, for example, eating meat with bones, then it will open a new world for you. But the very first step to see meat with bones, to try
know
to
how to eat it, because in a restaurant it's quite intimidating, right? If you don't know how to eat something, and it will
Exactly.
get maybe dirty or like
Table manner.
Yeah.
In Western table, I think it's not elegant that you spit at bones, right?
Yeah, like
So
for me,
that's-
like even if I go to like restaurants with like chicken, like a chicken leg where you need to eat around the bones, it's like very like it feels like hard work because you shouldn't like
You should
be
hold
able
it
to
with
like
your
somehow.
hand.
I don't even know
It's not
what's
elegant.
I don't even know what you're supposed to do. So
But
that's the hard part, right?
yeah, that's true. So I mean, when you're when people are sharing Chinese food with you, you see the every side of this person.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a date, probably get married with someone, you take a date to a Chinese restaurant. You see the ugly side as well of this person, and then you can, if you can live with that, and then you can, then you know you accepted that.
But it's true, like for example about manners, like I think in China when you eat noodles, it's very common to just like slurp, and like many Europeans
in Japan
don't like
as well. It's an appreciation for the food.
But like here you don't do it, and it's very hard to eat it if you don't do it, right? Because it's hot and it's like the noodles are long, so yeah. But that's like another thing that people are just like at the first time they see it, it's like I didn't expect this, and but not going too much into detail, what I wanted to say is like probably for someone who's never been to China, the most important thing is that if you don't want to deal with too complex food or like the parts of animals you never ate or like something that
you have
looks
options.
suspicious, you have so many options for like simple food, like especially noodle soups or like just noodle dishes that would have maybe a little bit of meat, right? But it would be just like a little piece and or like a bit of minced meat inside. One thing that I think is a bit more difficult is like if you're a vegetarian, like strictly vegetarian, but our friend, we know a friend, as long as you can explain what you want in Chinese, you're probably fine.
Yes, you need to know.
But it's like the vegetarianism, I guess, as a concept, like I don't know if it's that popular for the reasons that are not related to cultural religion. Like, you know what I mean? Like people, it's maybe in big cities, people are vegetarian because they don't want to hurt animals. But I think it's much less common. So that's why I don't know. Am I correct or?
Well, first of all, I think there are vegetarian options, and I mean, especially in big cities, it's also kind of the new trend.
But
as
exactly,
well.
That's what I mean. Like, if you are able to tell,
you need to find the restaurant where it is.
Well, I mean, it's like for example, it can be if you're like, I guess vegan is more problematic, but like if there might be a dish that it doesn't contain meat per se, but like would they be cautious about what oil they are cooking it in, or like what does it touch? Because like if you have here
like very strict
like for example, my brother is vegetarian, and he like really, if it would be cooked on the same pan as like it's like I think many people if they are vegetarian because of like animal rights reasons, they are very strict about it, and they assume there's like no touch points with meat.
Okay, I mean there are also options for that as well. You can always try temple food, and I believe almost every city there's temple that offer food to vegetarian. I mean completely strictly vegan, even without garlic or leek, these with strong flavors. You can always try that. And otherwise you completely avoid food like without any touch of meat. I think that's difficult. I mean, then
I think that basically like the hard part is like you would have to be able to explain what you want. Like I think if you speak Chinese or for example recognize the characters for like meat, like different animals, then you can browse the menu. I think it's just that and many menus have pictures, right? So that makes it easier to order something.
But I think it's the same thing in Europe to find like completely vegan, like they have zero touch of meat, egg.
But I mean, like here the restaurants they often on the menu they would have like green leaf or something. Of course, it's still the same kitchen, but like they would have like some sign like green leaf or something. Like I don't know if
that
I would
could be a
imagine
good
like-
idea to develop menus so that people know it's vegetarian.
But I would imagine bigger cities, and it's changing very fast. So maybe a lot of the things that I say is outdated.
You know
but
what's the best? If you go countryside, like this countryside restaurant, like my parents, they always just display all their ingredient outside. You can just point.
Yeah.
You want to this scramble
Yeah.
this vegetable,
Yeah.
or you want to make
Yeah.
a soup from that vegetable, and people will understand.
Yeah.
That's also
Yeah.
an option. But really completely vegan without any.
like for example, if it's
traces.
a soup, it will be most likely a broth cooked with some meat, right?
Yes, mostly. Yeah, you have to tell.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I mean, speaking of like you can tell, then we can move to our next topic about communication in China,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I think communication is a challenge.
Okay.
And
For me,
for
I
you,
take it for granted because I speak Chinese and.
but aren't you also like sometimes confused because it's like for me, I thought it's just the language, right? The first time
Yeah.
we came, it was more about the language. But sometimes I feel like what they try, like, because many things are just so different. Like, even if you go to a restaurant, like what happens at what time, like what are you ordering, that it's sometimes confusing for reasons other than the language itself.
There's always culture stay behind. I
Exactly.
mean, language and culture, they are indispensable.
Exactly.
I mean, you could use the right language, but totally wrong in the cultural setting. I made a lot of mistakes here in Switzerland as well. But I believe for many people who come to China for the first time with limited language, I think it can be very confusing.
So that's why I think like, first of all, I don't think speaking Mandarin is necessary to go. And I think like as long as you're fluent both in the language and the culture, it helps you just a little bit.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
But what I'm saying is like, you can totally go without speaking because there's technology to help you. I think some of the translation apps, as long as you are really trying to translate basic stuff, not like really complex things with complex sentences, because then they just don't work. And you will still be probably confused about the menus because the names of dishes are sometimes abstract, so it's hard to translate, so you might not know. But you can totally travel without the language. You will still be confused though.
I mean, two things I think the most important two things, transport and accommodation. I think if you are traveling to China without speaking Chinese, that should not be a problem because most of the trains are in two different languages, at least Chinese and English. And high-speed train, definitely so.
In the city's metro, they would have in Pinyin
Metro as
their
well.
locations.
And
accommodations in bigger hotels,
bigger
they
would speak English.
Or if they don't speak very well English, they will ask you often for your WeChat number, and you can write to them and translate it in the app. So
I was when we were in Hainan and we stayed in a hotel. There are many people who can speak English. They just like at the reception, there's a giant screen. Whatever you're saying, it will automatically translate it into bilingually. I mean, in Chinese and English. Yeah. And you can even choose German or whatever, Spanish,
but
Polish.
Even at the border control,
exactly,
you know that
exactly
they
like the border control.
The border control, if you arrive, like they don't do it for Polish. I don't know why, but they put it in English. But for many languages like Spanish, Italian, German,
languages,
it's the automatic translation. When they take your fingerprints, you show the passport. They just ask you all the commands in your language based on your
technology.
Passport. Yeah, so it's I think it's quite interesting, but that's maybe inhibition for because most people in China don't speak English, right? Unless they are educated. Even the things most surprising in Hainan, right? Because we went for a travel mart, so obviously a lot of international visitors, still very little English, and I think because
I'm surprised as well.
Yes, and like I mean, keynote speeches in Chinese translated simultaneously, but still that it's like. It's still.
I mean, to be honest, we start to learn English at the age of 12. I mean, I think now even younger probably, but I just.
But 12 is already late for language like that is so different, like to recognize the sounds and everything.
I thought people can understand. I mean, because I stayed in Guangzhou and where there are a lot of like foreign trading happening and the languages are more I don't know, prevalent.
Yeah.
But if you go to England, like my hometown, like for example, my parents they don't even speak Mandarin, so
Yeah, no, it's
imagine
like
that.
exactly. So communication is definitely challenging, not only because of the language,
Yes.
but at the same time, like people are very helpful, and even without speaking, like they will try to make an effort, like beyond what's necessary. Like when we were traveling around Chinese New Year, we went to Harbin and we had to abruptly change our plans.
Yes.
We came very late and we were started to queue for the taxi, and the woman who worked there, she started to explain to us it's 2-hour queue and we were with, it's 11 p.m. you're with kids, don't queue. And we're like, we don't know what to do. So she personally took us, she was a worker there, she took us to the bus stop. She asked people at the bus stop which bus will take us where we need to go. She told them to help us get out, and people in the bus helped us to which stop we have to go. So with very little language, with just pointing at the phone, because of the willingness of people to help, it was actually not a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, this come back to actually our last topic about safety.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I mean, this is my humble opinion. It's exactly because the people talking about control and the surveillance. It's the reason why people feel safer than before. It's like a trade-off between privacy and safety.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but I think it goes beyond the surveillance, because in London, like for example, of course, China leads in terms of like cameras per person in big cities, but London comes close. London is very surveilled, like it's the most surveilled city in England.
You will see it as well.
But London is still dangerous. So I think it goes beyond just the surveillance. I think a lot has to do with, I don't know, because I don't know the culture enough, but I think there is like some kind of social element, like the more trust for institutions for sure. So people, for example, when they see a policeman, they are like, maybe in the West, we are not very trustful towards police. There, I think police, first of all, even our experience, like they come to just say hello, it's less intimidating, but people, I think, do trust that if there's a policeman, he's here to help rather than to cause them any issues, right? So this is definitely plays a role.
Yeah, I do agree. In terms, many people told me they feel safe traveling in China. Also, China, I think in general, the common people are very friendly to travelers, towards travel. I don't see the reason why they shouldn't.
But
unless it's like I do feel that in Switzerland sometimes being a tourist, especially Asian tourist, in certain region you are not welcome.
Yeah.
But I do understand.
Yeah. I think for me, like I also feel like they are very like interested to interact and talking. And when we were in Fuzhou on the last trip, I talked to some, I was taking photos in the park of like old ladies dancing. I talked to one and they were very friendly. Only once it happened to me that they actually said like it was a group of older people dancing, like small group. They were, I think, singing. There was one woman from Malaysia, visitor. And then I said, actually, I think the reason was because I said I mentioned that I'm on an organized trip with bloggers. And I think she thought like I'm a journalist and I will maybe write some, you know what I mean? Because it was like, they were all very friendly. Then I said that I travel with like other journalists, and then I think she got maybe suspicious and she told the other ones not to talk to me. Like
interesting.
But the others were very happy, right? And there's woman from Malaysia was like, you can take pictures of me and stuff. So it was like, so I think, but that's maybe because I think there are some journalists that come with the purpose of like, just portraying certain things, maybe not as they are. So I think people might be more cautious with journalists. But we were always everywhere super welcome, like everywhere we came, and especially with kids. With kids, it's especially when they were younger. It's like insane. Like they love babies.
Yeah, but what I want to say is like I heard people complaining about being over friendly.
That's for sure. If you're traveling a long time,
If you have like a very strong personal boundary,
Yeah.
but yeah, you have to get used to that. You will draw attention. I mean, me, I will not for sure. But my husband, who is a Swiss, so when he was in China and
so they take pictures of him as well.
oh, you should see one picture like because we I come from countryside of China, and we had like a small restaurant. It's like outdoor city, and we always had dinner outside in summer because it's cool and the temperature is a little bit cooler than inside. And then when he was there, and there were always like 7 or 6 old ladies just simply watching him eating.
Wow.
And he was so uncomfortable. Like if you're every little details of you having dinner will be observed.
Yeah.
And he felt very uncomfortable.
I mean, for us, like when we travel with kids, it's for sure a lot of tension. But it happened also that they wanted to take a picture of my husband, and I was like surprised, and I'm still not sure that does he look like anyone like famous, or is it just like because he looks different? Because also many people
But
told
not
him is
you?
very no him a lot. Me, I guess I don't know, not really. Like
Interesting.
but for him, it's like many people told him he's handsome. Like I was always very surprised because sometimes we thought, okay, they want to take the pictures of their kids because that happens a lot. But sometimes I know, like, so it's
Yeah, I think also that's what I mean, I used to be Chinese teacher as well. Lesson number 1, how to say no in Chinese. 不要
But sometimes you have to be strict, right?
And also probably sometimes be strategic as well. Like, I mean, saying no strategically in China. That would be another
topic,
episode. But yeah, I think being clear about what you don't want, it's also okay. But you have to be careful that don't offend people because 面子 face is very important in China. You don't want somebody to lose their face. So that's the reason why probably we should start an episode talking about how to say no in China.
That would be
strategically.
Helpful for me for my trips as well. Okay, I think
so. Yeah, I think probably it's time for wrapping up. And thank you for listening or watching. And I really like my tea today. Yeah. Thank you, Magda, for the nice tea.
Yeah, maybe next time you can share your tea.
Yes, for sure. So 再见，拜拜。
拜拜。